Everyone loves a wedding. And for a society obsessed with celebrities, it's no wonder that every time an A-list couple ties the knot, we demand every last detail.
We all want to know, myself included. It's our nature. We want to know. We want to see those photos. We want to see what kind of dress she wore and what kind of flowers they had. I don't think we can help it.
The public's demand is insatiable, and the paparazzi will stop at nothing to snap that exclusive wedding photo.
We've had paparazzi going through trash. We've had paparazzi, act as guests trying to get into an event. Paparazzi swimming in the ocean to get a photo. We've found them hanging from trees.
Overeager reporters can turn an intimate event into what looks like a military siege.
Who wants a helicopter flying overhead at their wedding? I mean, I don't know any bride that would be like, oh yeah, sure, loud noise and a fan. You could just see the cake icing splatting onto the bride.
But now more than ever, celebs are fighting to keep the press behind enemy lines.
Celebrities will often go to crazy extremes to protect their weddings.
Sabotage, decoys, armed security fleets. We're bringing you the inside scoop on how the world's most prominent pairs keep their big days on the DL. In April of 2008, super diva Beyoncé Knowles left all the single ladies behind to tie the knot with hip-hop hotshot Jay-Z. And she was prepared to keep the event under the radar at all costs.
Well, I've interviewed Beyoncé a number of times, and she's very, very private about her relationship. To this day, there have not been any pictures of that wedding released.
So how did the most media-flanked members of music royalty pull it off?
First of all, it was in their own apartment building. They didn't rent out some lavish space.
A lot of celebrities opt to have their weddings in a private residence, either their own home or a friend's home, and they keep the ceremony behind locked doors.
But far more important, Jay-Z and his girl B followed the #1 secret wedding rule: trust no one. Least of all, vendors, the people who supply services for the wedding, from caterers to designers, cake makers to florists, and the entourage of workers that come along with them.
Vendors are actually the easiest way for the details of your wedding to leak, right? And this is exactly what the press is hungry for. What kind of flowers is she going to be having? How many tables are there going to be so we can get a sense of the size of the guest list? Also, the delivery people that are arriving on site, and these are people who could use an extra buck, right? And would be easily swayed by the press's bribery.
Beyoncé wasn't about to have any of that. So what did she do? Avoid vendors altogether.
Beyonce and Jay-Z lived a very flashy life. When they had their ceremony, it was surprisingly DIY.
Beyoncé took it upon herself to do a lot of the planning and a lot of the execution of her wedding. Her mom made her own dress. I know Jay-Z's grandmother and mother cooked as well as Beyoncé's mom. So the fact that they didn't have to outsource to different people definitely helped them keep it a secret.
But they couldn't do everything on their own. On the day of the event, truckloads of flowers began showing up at Jay-Z's downtown Manhattan apartment, and the press realized that something was up.
If you're a celebrity and you want to have a super secret wedding, you may not want to order 70,000 white orchids from Thailand. What?
Us Weekly sent senior reporter Rebecca Beanstalk to scope the scene.
Throughout the day, various items were brought to the street over here, including flowers, candelabras, various things. So it was really clear there was going to be a major event happening here. We didn't know if it was a wedding, a big party, what it was going to be. More reporters were showing up. There were also paparazzi stationed up in the roofs of some of these buildings. Soon it was just packed with fans wanting to see if this was actually going to be the wedding for Jay-Z and Beyonce. It was probably around 6 or so p.m. that people started really arriving. All the guests were coming in cars similar to those SUVs that are waiting there, completely tinted windows, and everybody was being pulled in through these gates right here. Among the guests, Chris Martin, Gwyneth Paltrow were in one car together. Kelly Rowland and Michelle Williams, who had been in Destiny's Child with Beyonce.
The crowd waited for any sign that these A-listers were here for a wedding. Would the bride enter next?
If Beyonce were to walk up in her white wedding gown just into the building, it would be a media frenzy. There's no way that she could get away with doing that. So of course she had to find any way possible to shroud herself in secrecy.
So the rumor is that she hid in the back of one of the flower delivery trucks and came in through the garage.
Beyonce's rumored undercover entrance was just one small part of a pricey security strategy that could have come straight from a military handbook.
Security was airtight on this thing. I mean, we're talking about like security at every single exit and entrance. They had people on the roof, people at ground level, at all the doors.
It may seem extreme, but it paid off.
They ended up confiscating 3 guns, turns out.
This is a small wedding, only 40 guests. You know, the ratio of guests to guns is unfortunate.
The militia-like security also succeeded at keeping the press in the dark.
It was definitely one of the most secret weddings we've ever seen happen, actually. Weeks after the wedding, it was still unclear if they had actually gotten married. They didn't confirm it till much later.
Janine Amber of Essence magazine was the first to interview Beyonce in the wake of the suspicious event.
When we sat down to talk, you know, it was sort of like the elephant in the room. She'd never kind of come out and say, well, I'm married. I'd say something about it, and she'd look at me and she'd say, well, you know, and she'd give her little smile. She said, you're gonna get me in so much trouble.
When it came to keeping their wedding under wraps, Beyonce and Jay-Z went the extra mile. But if hiding in a flower truck and spending tens of thousands on security seems extreme, think again. In 2006, the hottest couple from Down Under went completely overboard.
When Nicole Kidman got married, she was the biggest Australian celebrity there was at the time.
News that the former Mrs. Tom Cruise was marrying Grammy Award-winning country singer and fellow Aussie Keith Urban had paparazzi storming Sydney's shores. And to make matters worse, their guest list looked like the latest presenter lineup for the Academy Awards.
They had a huge celebrity guest list. Naomi Watts was there, of course, her Aussie actress friend, Russell Crowe, another famed Aussie actor. They also had Baz Luhrmann from the movie that she had starred in, Moulin Rouge.
If you want to have a top secret wedding, my best advice is don't invite all of your A-list friends.
But Nicole is no fool. The buzz was that she had a plan and the cash to back it up.
Rumors start leaking out that she actually rented all of the helicopters in Sydney to make sure that there was no chance that anyone would be able to get in a helicopter and see her wedding.
The rumor is Nicole Kidman spent $300,000 on helicopters alone. Helicopters. Is it too late for me to marry Nicole Kidman?
Maybe not. But first you'd have to find the right one. In the days before the wedding, gossip circulated that Nicole was hiring decoy brides.
Nicole Kidman lookalikes to be popping out of limos in different parts of town so that the press would be thrown off as people were calling in that they had seen Nicole the bride around town.
It's never been confirmed that Nicole hired decoys. But even if she did, it didn't help.
It turns out everyone found out all the details anyway, because when they were on their way to the wedding, the public was by the street side wishing them well and waving.
But Nicole quickly disappeared into Sydney's prestigious St. Patrick's estate, where she was joined by her groom and more than 200 of their closest friends. A top-notch security team locked the place down like a fortress.
And as even further insurance, they made sure that they got married after sundown, so the entire event was cloaked in darkness, making sure that the paparazzi would not get any shot of this wedding. This couple played it very classy.
Not every celebrity couple can pull off top-level security and still keep it classy.
I think there is a case where you can take celebrity wedding security a little too far, such as in the case of Gisele, Büdnchen, and Tom Brady. So, you know, She's like a supermodel. He's, you know, a New England Patriots quarterback, an NFL superstar. So, you know, you put the two together, and of course there was massive media interest.
But these two hotties are notoriously hush-hush.
If there's any example of a celebrity couple that tries to maintain their privacy, it is Gisele and Tom. They did their best to try to keep their wedding a big secret. And they did it after dark in this church in Santa Monica.
Only the most important family members made the guest list, which of course included Gisele's perfectly coiffed canines.
She had her 3 dogs there and dressed them up in matching Dolce & Gabbana outfits.
If you really want to keep your wedding a secret, just invite your animals.
Tom and Gisele pulled off a completely covert operation. But why stop there? When you're as hot as these two, you can pretty much do anything you want. So why not have another wedding?
The second wedding for Tom and Gisele was held at Gisele's home in Costa Rica.
This time, the Super Bowl stud and his bride made an epic security fumble.
It went beyond anything that anyone's ever seen.
It's been said that Tom Brady and Gisele Bündchen hired armed bodyguards to keep the paparazzi away.
Apparently, the paparazzos were outside taking pictures of the wedding from 300 feet away when they were approached by some hired bodyguards and security.
There were rumors that after they got into a little scuffle, the photographers started driving off, and one of the bodyguards actually shot into the car. And the photographers have talked about how they literally missed this bullet by inches.
The couple swears they had no idea about what went down until the next day. But the near-miss murder attempt led to a $1 million lawsuit.
Lesson learned, celebrities, keep the guns at home. Lesson learned, paparazzi, bulletproof vest.
Coming up, she may say love don't cost a thing, but this big-name bride paid a pretty penny to seal the deal on the sly. These days, any A-list couple looking to get hitched is forced to take extreme precautions.
The worst case scenario for a celebrity right now in Hollywood is for any paparazzo to be tipped off about any tiny detail about their wedding.
No one knows this better than pop superstar Jennifer Lopez. In the fall of 2003, her plans to wed actor Ben Affleck fell apart under the harsh spotlight of the media.
The wedding was out, everybody knew everything, and the tension and the pressure got to them, and really, it destroyed their relationship.
So when Jen found herself headed for the altar with Latin pop singer Marc Anthony in the summer of 2004, she decided to do things a little differently.
Mark and J-Lo have been a part of each other's lives for many, many years.
These two actually dated in the late 90s, and throughout their marriages to other people, they've remained friends.
By the time they were ready to tie the knot, Jenny had been around the block, and she knew there was only one way to make it work.
She decided to keep the wedding details as close to her sleeve as possible.
So close that no one knew about the wedding until they were actually there.
The way that Jennifer invited her guests was that they said they were just going to have a summer barbecue at her California home.
And it was a very intimate list of about 35, 40 people, their close family and friends. And when the guests arrived, Marc Anthony announced that, surprise, you've just been invited to our wedding.
Jennifer soon emerged from the house in a long white Vera Wang gown. She accessorized with millions of dollars in Neil Lane diamonds.
But how'd she get her hands on all that bling without tipping off the press? For the answer, we went straight to the source. Hollywood jeweler Neil Lane.
I've done so many confidential weddings. Privacy is very important with us. Being privy to all this information, you just keep it under your hat.
And after years in the biz, Neil's learned a few tricks of the trade.
You know, I can deliver the jewels secretly. We can meet at hotels. We can meet in clandestine locations, which I have. We can meet in cars and hand off the ring. They're usually always under an alias. I've been doing weddings for years, and we've never really leaked anything.
It's no wonder J-Lo trusted Neil to discreetly deck her out for the big day.
These are similar jewels which were used for Jennifer Lopez. She had layers of diamonds on her dress, in her hair. We have an amazing diamond collar, long diamond chains, a beautiful diamond pendant, and different diamond bracelets here, one for each wrist. She is Hollywood royalty, and she looked like a princess.
Neil did a sparkling job of keeping J-Lo's wedding plans on the DL. But he wasn't the only person she had to worry about.
There's so many ways of things leaking out. We're just the guy that designs the jewels. But you know, in a big Hollywood wedding, you have a florist, you have a table designer, you have invitations, you have the coordinator, rentals, you have the decor, you have the pictures, you have the cake maker.
J-Lo gave details to her vendors on a need-to-know basis. And apparently, her cake maker did not need to know.
Well, the story behind J-Lo's wedding cake was very interesting because we had absolutely no idea that she was getting married. We had absolutely no idea that we were going to do her cake. In walks this young woman who wants to order a wedding cake. And she has a photo. She indicates it's not for herself. She said she refers to the bride as she wants this specific cake and was very, very fussy, very particular. So already the wheel starts turning in my head and I'm thinking, okay, this is for a celebrity. So now comes the day and we've got the wedding cake. That night, turn on the news and I hear Jennifer Lopez got married in a last-minute ceremony and the light bulb just went off in my head. I went, I know that was her cake. I know it.
But wait a second. If J-Lo was so secretive she wouldn't even tell her cake maker about the wedding, then how did the event make it onto the evening news? Turns out, she broke one important secret wedding rule.
If you're going to get married outside, you're sort of taking luck into your own hands and letting the paparazzi get shots of you.
J-Lo knew that an outdoor wedding was a risk, and she made every attempt possible to shield herself from zoom lens attacks.
She emerged from the house under a white parasol to keep herself hidden from the time she left the house to the time she ducked under a white tent.
A tent is a great way to protect the couple and the guests from photographers.
The best way? Maybe, but not good enough. The umbrellas and tents were no match for the photographers from Bauer Griffin Photo House.
This lens was used at the J-Lo wedding. This is the maximum length you could use. The kind of fast, long lens that would be used for someone that's maybe as far as half a mile away from the situation and still get an acceptable image.
The Bauer Griffin photographer managed to snap one shot of the bride. And that was all they needed to rake in the dough.
It doesn't get any bigger. The wedding with the wedding dress is the biggest thing of all.
When we return, this diva had a vision of love, and it had everybody fooled.
Mariah pulled the ultimate secret celebrity wedding.
Pulling off a secret celebrity wedding is no walk in the park, especially if you're one of the world's most worshipped pop icons. But leave it to notoriously outrageous diva Mariah Carey. When our girl Mariah wed actor Nick Cannon in April of 2008, she came up with the most elaborate scheme we've seen yet.
Mariah pulled the ultimate secret celebrity wedding because she fooled everyone.
Basically, they told all the vendors and the caterers and the florists and the suppliers, they said, we're shooting a music video and Mariah is gonna play a bride.
Everything was going to be for this video that was going to be about a wedding. And that's how she tricked everyone into going down to Windermere, her private resort.
That would have been one heck of a music video, because the royal Miss Carey spared no expense.
Mariah is very well known for being the most extravagant diva on the planet.
Remember, we're talking about a woman who reportedly keeps a separate security team on staff for her dogs.
She had private jets flying every aspect of her wedding in. The florist was loading flowers onto their private jet. She flew in with her Margaret Braun wedding cake on her private jet with it on the seat beside her. Live Maine lobsters, fine china being flown in to set the tables. We're talking $30,000, $40,000 for each item that's being flown in on its own Gulfstream.
You'd think she was planning a feast for hundreds of guests. Think again.
She, in fact, only had 12 guests in the end.
There's a lot of no-nos for a secret wedding. Number one, big guest list. Statistically, the more guests we have, the more at risk we are. Information leaks very easily. You cannot trust anybody, really.
Allegedly, even members of the groom's immediate family.
Reportedly, Nick's family only heard about him getting married after they read about it in the tabloids.
If you're Nick Cannon, you have to know what your relationship is going to be like with Mariah. None of your people are invited anywhere. Not your parents, not your friends, no one except your prenuptial lawyer.
I don't advise any brides out there to buy the Mariah Carey how-to guide for impressing the in-laws. But she and Nick did manage to keep their big day completely under wraps. In the fall of 2004, another pop diva who pulled a fast one on her guests was not so lucky.
The media was obsessed with Britney Spears. She was a teen pop star. She was just all over the press. People were absolutely out of control talking about her.
But this was only the beginning. When news spread that Britney was engaged to her backup dancer, Kevin Federline, the media went wild.
Originally, Kevin and Britney were going to get married at the famous Baccara Resort in Santa Barbara. Gorgeous place, noted for its celebrity weddings with 100 guests they were going to bring in. But then they realized things were really getting out of control. The paparazzi were going crazy for them.
Everywhere they went, they were surrounded by at least 40 or 50 or 60 paparazzi.
Maybe a big Santa Barbara blowout wasn't the best idea after all.
They realized that they probably were not going to be able to have any kind of intimate wedding there. So they changed their plans.
The couple switched the location to somewhere a little less glam.
Surprisingly, the wedding wasn't held at a famous hotel or at a famous catering hall. Britney decided to get married at her wedding planner's private home.
And that's not all. Unbeknownst to their guests, they also changed the date.
Britney Spears and Kevin Federline pulled a number on their family and friends. They invited them to an engagement party that turned out to be their actual wedding.
Their guests came in and they had a lovely sign saying, "Surprise, you've been invited to our wedding."
And, oh yeah, there was one more surprise. The couple reportedly asked guests to sign agreements swearing not to leak any information to the press.
I think it would be very awkward if you had to sign some legal paperwork before going to your son's or daughter's wedding.
You know, if you need to have a guest sign a non-disclosure, they probably shouldn't be at your wedding.
Well, no one ever gave Britney the award for Best Decision Maker. But this time, it didn't even matter. Because paparazzo Frank Griffin was already on the case.
Britney Spears, we knew, was getting married on or about a certain day or weekend in the year.
Even though Britney changed the date at the last minute, Frank had discovered that her friends and family were on the ground.
They want to have the parents there, so sometimes you just check what hotel they checked into.
All the signs were there, except for one that could point Frank to the event.
I was with my partner driving around, and we'd got most of our stuff at every possible location that she may show. We couldn't find where she was going to get married.
But Frank got a lucky break when he received a call from his next-door neighbor.
And said, "Guess what? Britney's getting married in the next street." And she married literally the street from where I live, and that's how we found the wedding.
Frank waited outside with his camera, knowing the couple would have to walk out eventually. Meanwhile, the celebration inside was going off in true Britney style.
She wanted to make it into the biggest, grandest affair possible.
Britney wore an incredible $26,000 Monique Lhuillier gown. Monique had actually shown her 40 different gowns to choose from, but she picked this beautiful strapless dress with a long train.
And no Britney performance would be complete without a costume change.
For the reception, she actually changed into the single sexiest spin-off of a wedding dress I have ever seen. I think it came like 2 inches below her hips. It was lace all over, another gorgeous Monique Lhuillier look.
Monique also made the bridesmaid dresses that Britney bought for all of her closest friends and family at $3,000 a piece.
It's estimated that Britney spent more than $50,000 on dresses alone. And the pop star didn't stop there. She also sprung for an extravagant floral package. To get the deets, we visited her florist.
We didn't know about that event until 48 hours before the actual wedding. So that was a bit of a scramble for us to pull together.
But Mark and his crew are pros, and they pulled it off with style.
This is the bouquet we created for Britney Spears for her wedding. All white, as you can see, trims of Swarovski crystals, make it sparkle a little bit.
As Hollywood's premier celebrity florist, Mark's used to going above and beyond while keeping things on the DL.
If the celebrity wants to keep the wedding a secret, then it's up to us to follow their wishes.
Britney and K-Fed managed to keep the press at bay. But not for long. By the time the wedding was over, a crowd of paparazzi were waiting for them to exit.
Right outside the front door.
But it was too late for photogs to catch the bride in her white gown. The couple and the wedding party had already changed into casual outfits, matching ones, of course. Handpicked by the queen of class, Brit herself.
They all dressed in juicy couture sweatsuits and had their reception, it was really an after party, but it really felt like the reception, out dancing at a bar.
The whole scenario was classic Britney. You know, she sets up this whole thing where, like, we fooled the paparazzi, we fooled the media, haha, we got away with it, except no, they didn't, because right after they got married, they went out clubbing, out in public, and of course, swarmed by, like, so many photographers and people and fans, and, you know, it turned out the whole thing wasn't a secret at all.
I mean, of course you want everyone to know about your wedding, Britney. Don't even try it. I see you, girl, I see you.
In a moment, Brad Pitt's 5-step plan for sending paparazzi on a wild goose chase around the globe. For any in-demand celebrity couple, planning a wedding involves much more than finding a venue and picking out the flowers.
You know, part of the wedding planning is how are we gonna throw the media off the scent? You know, how are we gonna distract the paparazzi? A new trend has become to plan fake weddings and fake ceremonies. They'll leak out information strategically. It's sort of like CIA-level stealth.
Some celebrities are worse than others or think it's their raison d'etre. They live just to beat the paparazzi.
One example, hunky hotshot Brad Pitt.
The press were like rabid animals when it came to the Brad Pitt and Jennifer Aniston wedding. And Brad knew that they were gonna try to get every detail, so he threw them off the scent.
He had invitations printed, knowing that the person who printed the invitation was going to sell the information. It wasn't valid. Quite often the invitation goes out to people and somebody needs to make a car payment, or just they want to prove that they know this information. And they maybe tell the hairdresser tells an editor, the editor gives it to us.
Brad's plan worked. The wrong information did leak out, and the press was sent on a wild goose chase. And in case that wasn't enough, according to Frank, Brad continued to release misleading rumors.
I think every agency went to the far corners of the earth. We went to Mustique. We had somebody there for 7 days. Another team went to Alaska. Others went around the world, Bora Bora, God knows where else.
The wedding actually took place on a private estate in Malibu, and the press came away empty-handed.
The world had tried to break open that wedding, nobody got anything.
Taking all that extra time to throw the press off track may seem crazy, but some couples go even further.
Some celebrities make sure that even their guests won't know where their wedding's gonna be taking place. Perfect example of this is Pete Wentz and Ashlee Simpson.
Ashlee Simpson is, of course, known for being a singer and actress, but most notably Jessica Simpson's little sister. And when she married Pete Wentz, a musician from the band Fall Out Boy, people were very excited about it, but it was all a secret.
Ashlee Simpson and Pete Wentz did something that's becoming a trend with celebrities. They didn't send out formal invitations. They actually sent out text messages to their closest friends and family and told them to check into a hotel in LA.
And then from that hotel, got them all on a bus secretly and then drove them to the actual location, which was Encino in the backyard of her parents' home. They completely threw everyone off the trail.
Reportedly, when they finally got there, the guests were asked to check their cell phones and cameras at the door.
They had to make sure that none of their guests had any way to take a picture of this wedding.
It turns out, Ashlee and Pete had more than privacy on the line.
Her dad had shopped the exclusive rights to the wedding photos around to all the magazines, and supposedly People magazine had paid $1.3 million, but on the condition that no images got out.
They don't want any photos, anything to get out before they get their big payday. And they want to have editorial rights over how their wedding is portrayed in the magazine.
The ceremony and reception took place in the backyard, under the cover of a large white tent.
They had decked out an incredible, huge tent with an Alice in Wonderland plus rock and roll theme. The colors were red and black. There were red roses, chandeliers, but with a black carpet.
We created a garden for them in the tent, and they walked down an aisle of trees that were sprouting flowers. It was quite beautiful. Ashlee's bouquet was black calla lilies and black magic roses.
Mark had to fly in roughly 10,000 of these rare flowers from Ecuador. But that wasn't the only hoop he had to jump through. Before they would even agree to work with him, Ashlee and Pete asked Mark to sign a hefty confidentiality agreement.
It's basically, if you talk about it, we will kill you.
It is very common for celebrities to go to those vendors and say, if you want to do my wedding, you have to make sure that every single person in your organization has signed a confidentiality agreement and made sure they are not going to speak word one about my wedding details.
Usually with high-profile weddings, we do get calls from various media. And we really try to be very mum about what's going on. I mean, if they want to keep it private, I think that's their right.
Ashlee and Pete's strategy paid off. Their exclusive photographer got the only photos of the event, which soon graced the pages of People magazine. But the story doesn't end there.
There may have been another reason why Ashlee and Pete wanted to keep their wedding a big secret, and that's that Ashlee came out later and told everyone that she was 3 months pregnant at the time of her wedding.
That's another trend that's happening in Hollywood. I mean, there's no taboo anymore with a shotgun wedding.
Taboo or not, for some celebs, it's another reason to keep their trip to the altar under the radar.
Jessica Alba and Cash Warren met on the set of The Fantastic Four. He was a production assistant, and their romance bloomed on the set. It was an OSR, as they would say in Hollywood, an on-set romance.
4 years later, the on-again, off-again couple got the itch to get hitched, just in time for the arrival of their first child.
Supposedly, when Jessica Alba and Cash Warren got married, the bride was 9 months pregnant.
And when it came time to say their vows, mum was the word.
Some celebrities are really smart, and they know the best thing to do is not invite anyone to your wedding because that way nobody will know. So Jessica Alba and Cash Warren did just this.
Jessica didn't go all out for this wedding. She wore a plain blue dress, and Cash wore basically some khakis and a button-down white shirt.
They walked into the courthouse, got their license, and then waited about a little over a half hour, and the county clerk led them into the ceremony room. And they said, "I do," under the ceremony decorations in the courthouse.
The only person who was the witness was the staff member who presided over their marriage.
Their friends and family didn't even know, and this was a big deal.
Jessica's notoriously known throughout Hollywood for having a very close relationship with her mom, so it was a bit of a surprise that she wasn't even at the courthouse when they got married.
Moms talk. And your mom, even if you say, Mom, it's a secret, please don't tell Aunt Florida, please don't tell Uncle James. Before you know it, you're getting calls from random third cousins like, I didn't get invited to the wedding.
I think celebrities are definitely going to go to the courthouse more often now that they've seen that it's a success, because they want to keep this as intimate and as close as possible. And the less people that they tell, the better success rate they have at being married and not having the paparazzi tipped off.
But hiding in a courthouse doesn't cut it for some couples. When we return, a star-studded duo takes their wedding so far off the map, it's kind of creepy.
I'd be like, yeah, they're trying to kill me.
For any A-list couple, planning an intimate wedding is like waging war against the press. Actor Ben Affleck lost the battle when his engagement to Jennifer Lopez fell prey to an obsessed media. So when he moved on to the next Jennifer, in June of 2005, he forged a whole new plan of attack.
Ben felt the craziness of his wedding plans to J-Lo just as much as J-Lo did. And he wanted the complete opposite when he married Jennifer Garner. Ben and Jen had their wedding on a very private island called Parakeet, which is off of Turks and Caicos, where a lot of celebrities have their homes.
Parakeet Resort in the Turks and Caicos is really the ultimate celebrity spot. Trying to get in there is like trying to get into Fort Knox. It's very private, it's very secretive, and it costs a lot of money.
It can only be accessed by boat, and if you don't have a home on the island, you have to be a registered guest at the super expensive resort that's on the island.
Because it's so exclusive and so expensive, the Parakeet can really help keep the press at bay. They can really control who gets in and who gets out.
But with any island, there's always one area that's hard to control. Take it from celebrity security expert David Stone.
Securing a beach wedding, if paparazzi comes in by boat, there's something you really can't protect against. What we do, we'll usually liaison with the local police, with the local Coast Guard, and say, listen, this is what's happening. We have Mr. X and Mrs. Y getting married this week on your beach. Is it possible we can hire your off-duty maritime security to give us a perimeter, 100 feet, 200 feet off the ocean? This way, these people don't come into this area.
Guess what, Ben and Jen? You didn't have all your bases covered, because the ocean around Parrot Key was wide open. And that's how Suzanne Razdiba of Star Magazine got a front row seat to your, well, not so secret wedding.
Star Magazine found out about Jennifer and Ben's wedding. I was a reporter at the time, and we knew that their wedding was gonna be a sunset ceremony on Bruce Willis's property. We had a small boat, and it's very easy to cruise around the area. We were near the property where Ben and Jen were getting married, and we saw the whole ceremony. Ben was dressed in a cream-colored suit, and Jen was wearing a beautiful white dress with a green sash. It was a very intimate, short, small ceremony. It wasn't 200 people.
Not even close. Try one guest. Jennifer's Alias co-star, Victor Garber.
It's ironic when you think about it because Jen's TV dad, Victor Garber, was there, but her real dad and mom were not there. Sorry, Mom and Dad.
After they'd gotten married, they stayed at the super deluxe resort on Parakeet Island. In order to stay at the resort, you have to have a reservation months ahead of time. It's usually high-profile celebrities, and it's very, very private. And I know that it's very private because I tried to get in.
An exclusive resort with top-level security? Sounds like my kind of wedding. But for some high-profile couples, even that's not enough. They want the whole place to themselves.
I'll always advise my clients where we can buy out the entire resort. The more remote, the better.
That's just what one of Hollywood's hottest couples did when they decided to seal the deal.
Scarlett Johansson and Ryan Reynolds wanted to keep this such a secret that they ended up not even sending out invitations. They only texted friends and family where the event was going to take place.
They found an incredibly remote location that you can only get to by seaplane, and that was their strategy. They invited their 40 guests to come to the Clayoquot Wilderness Retreat. It's off the coast of British Columbia on Vancouver Island, and they actually had to have a private seaplane escort everyone over.
Scarlett and Ryan rented out the entire resort. But secretly ushering their guests to a covert camp deep in the Canadian woods wasn't quite enough.
Rumors come up that actually all the phone lines are cut. No one can make a call saying, hey, I'm at Scarlett Johansson's wedding.
If you are a family member or a close friend of Scarlett Johansson and Ryan Reynolds, you have to really trust them, because if someone calls me and says, hey, come to my wedding, it's on a remote island you've never heard of, you can only get there by boat, and there's no phones on the island, we're gonna have a good time, I'd be like, yeah, they're trying to kill me.
But this was no Bates Motel.
This is an exclusive resort. This is not, any rough and tumble here. There are 20 tents that are the rooms that are the sort of exclusive villas here that are $1,000 a night each.
A lot of people are calling this glamping, a glamorous form of camping. It was really their way of bringing LA to the outdoors.
That is, most of LA. The bride and groom succeeded at leaving the media back on the mainland.
Scarlett and Ryan did such a good job keeping this wedding a secret. There are virtually no photos. I mean, there's none to be seen.
They are an example of a celebrity couple that will go to certain extremes to make sure that no one knows about their wedding.
When it comes to celebrities, they can get anything that they want, except for privacy.
And as we've seen, they'll do just about anything to have a little of that, too.